Hello and welcome to Pick or Pass on Knights at the Game Table. Morgan, what are we looking at tonight?
Well, tonight we're going to be looking at the sinister and sneaky guild of Dimir, one of the best archetypes of draft in Guilds of Ravnica Draft. And then to shore it up, in this video we'll also be looking at blue, one of the colors that comprises that guild.
Sneaky. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for watching the video. Now, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the other awesome Magic the Gathering content that we create, then make sure you click subscribe so you'll be updated whenever we release a new video.
Let's start off with the Mythix. Tell me what you think about Lassar the Multifarious.
Leader of the Dimir Guild, definitely a pick. Not something that I would pick super early in the pack because he's never really going to win the game on his own as other bombs would, other mythic bombs would. But he's definitely a lot of little value at a great place on the curve, and he has a very defensible body as a 1-3. So definitely a pick, probably around pick 5, 6, or 7.
Okay. What about Mnemonic Betrayal?
This card will betray you if you pick it, so it's definitely a pass. No sense in running this thing.
Alrighty. On to the rares, and here is a favorite at Knights of the Game Table, Atrada the Silencer.
Atrada the Silencer. You guys would like Atrada the Silencer, but a very, very powerful card in draft. Definitely a pick anytime you see her.
Awesome. How about Connive Concoct?
Connive and Concoct. Definitely a pick, but a pick again that I'm not going to take until a little bit later in the pack. The first half is something that you can get a little bit of value in if your opponent has a bomb that has a 2 power or less, but often you're not going to, on turn 4, steal a game away by stealing something with such low power.
Alrighty. What about an Unmoored Ego?
Don't do it. It's a pass.
Alrighty. And the Thief of Sanity.
Thief of Sanity is one of the most busted rares in this set, and every time you see it, you should be picking it. Even if you're not drafting it, you should be picking it to take it away from the person to your left or to your right.
Wow.
Because you don't want to deal with it. If you get a couple swings in with this guy, you really are going to drive your opponent insane.
Nice. Okay then. On to the uncommons and the House Guild Mage.
House Guild Mage is a definite pick for me. One of the strongest Guild Mages, as it has one half of it that locks down an opponent's creature and another half of it that helps you dig through your deck, trigger any surveil synergies that your deck might have, and of course only costs 2 and is a bear on average with her stats that way. So definitely picking the House Guild Mage whenever I see it.
Alrighty. The Night Vale Predator.
Probably the best, if not second best, of the double color uncommon series. Some people might say Crackling Drake is better, but Night Vale Predator, especially in a draft, is just so hard to deal with. Hexproof, Death Touch, and Flying are just a heck of a cocktail of abilities to have on a card. So this is the sort of card that I'm picking, and that's putting me into that guild early in the draft.
Nice. Scaling down our flyers for a minute, what about a Dimir Spybug?
A little bit smaller than the Night Vale Predator, but can grow up a lot bigger than the Night Vale Predator if you build your deck correctly. Another one of the payoffs that makes the Dimir Guild one of the most powerful to draft. So Dimir Spybug is going to be very high up on my list. The fact that it is a 2-drop and can come down earlier and then start accruing value. The fact that it can get bigger if I have instant speed surveil tricks. Definitely a card I'm interested in very early in the draft. Definitely a pick.
Alrighty. Discovery Dispersal.
This is the sort of card that's really good and constructed, but not so great in draft unless you have a bunch of surveil payoffs. If you do, it's a fine pick, and you should look for one throughout the draft. If you're not going hard into surveil, you probably don't need something like Discovery in your deck unless you're trying to enable some other sort of spell synergy with a Crackling Drake or something like that. So for me, most of the time, this card is a pass.
Alrighty. Disinformation Campaign.
Definite pick, Disinformation Campaign. You're going to notice that a lot of the uncommons in Dimir end up being picks, and that's what tells us it's one of the best guilds to draft in Guilds of Ravnica. Disinformation Campaign generates card advantage for you and takes it away from your opponent, and it rewards you for surveilling throughout the game, which is already a good mechanic. So just good on all axes, definitely a pick for me.
Nice. Thought Erasure.
Thought Erasure, again, one of those good cards in Constructed, but not great in Draft unless you're trying to get paid off for Surveil. So if you're there, pick it, but otherwise, go ahead and pass it along.
Alrighty. Notion Rain.
Notion Rain definitely is a pick for me. Notion Rain is great in a Grixis-style control deck or just in a hard control Dimir deck. It's the sort of thing that if you can land some defensive creatures, some walls early in the game, can help you dig to your bombs later in the game or to your counter spells, to your mass removal, and help you really finish out. So Notion Rain is a definite pick for me.
Okay, what about an Artful Takedown?
I'd say that Artful Takedown is probably the best common removal spell in the set for its flexibility. So definitely a pick.
Alrighty. The Darkblade Agent?
Darkblade Agent has never really knocked my socks off, but it's always been perfectly fine, which is just about where a common card should be. So for me, it's a pick if I'm in the guild.
Alright. Whisper Agent.
Whisper Agent. Whisper Agent is a 3/2 with Flash, which is normally not great in most sets, but the fact that it has a Surveil trigger when it enters the battlefield has actually risen this card on my radar. So for me, this is the sort of card that I'm happy to pick if I'm going into Dimir, or if I'm going into any other blue strategy. It's one of the rare things where a guild card can be good outside of the guild, and this is one of those because of the hybrid mana cost. So definitely a pick.
Alrighty. Finally, let's look at the mana fixing for Dimir. There's a Watery Grave, a Dimir Guildgate, and the Dimir Locket.
So this is something that happens in all guilds. All guilds are going to have these, and unless you're just strictly drafting for value, you're really never going to pick one of the double color shock lands. If you're already deep into a draft and you're comfortably in that guild or in a 3-color strategy that includes it, you might be happy to take it if there's nothing else better. But it's not the sort of card that you see first and that puts you into a guild. You need to already be somewhere and be looking for fixing to take something like this. Now the guild gates are a little bit different because there are cards in the set that benefit from you having a lot of guild gates. There is the Glaive of the Guild Pact. There's I think Guildmage's Summit, something like that, a blue enchantment we'll get to later that draws you cards with gates. And it is a big strategy now that people have sort of gotten tired of the like on rails guild drafting. If you draft a lot on Arena, to draft the 5-color good stuff deck because there are so many gates. So gates take on a little bit of a different light in that sort of drafting environment, and so gates might be something that you prioritize very, very high in a draft if you're in a strategy like that. Normally, they're always going to be good in the guilds outside of Boros. Boros is very aggressive. They generally want a lower curve, and they generally don't want to play tap lands at any point on that curve. So in the other guilds, the guild gates are going to be welcome in any deck, and you're going to take them probably middle of the pack, but in Boros, you're never going to take a guild gate. The same thing sort of goes for lockets, except lockets are even less useful than guild gates in most scenarios. If you're playing sealed, lockets are a great include. If you're playing draft, generally lockets are just a waste of space, unless you're a super, super controlling deck that wants to draw cards a lot. So again, in guilds like Dimir, in guilds like Golgari, and when you're splashing, when you're running Sultai, which is black, blue, green, or Grixis, which is black, blue, red, and notice both of these share the Dimir heritage, the one that most wants to grind out value and play a long game. Lockets are going to be better there, but in aggressive strategies like Izzet aggro, Boros aggro, Selesnya, not going to want to play the Lockets.
Alrighty, well, let's get on to the blue cards now. I feel like you're going to be quite enthusiastic here. Tell me about the Dream Eater.
So Dream Eater is one of the most powerful cards in the set. It's an absolute bomb mythic rare. You're going to pick it every time. You're going to look down and you're going to find out something else new that it does every time you read the card. So definitely a high pick.
Alrighty, Quasi-Duplicate.
Definitely a pick, and a high one too. If you've never quasi-duplicated your own Murmuring Mystic, then you just haven't lived to draft the best Guilds of Ravnica Draft you can. So definitely take this card high.
Alright, and what about a mission briefing?
Sorry to brief you on this mission so poorly, but the answer is no. This is a trap for new players most of the time. A lot of text on it, looks really fun. You're like, oh, I can imagine all the crazy things I can do with it. But most often it's just tempo disadvantageous to do something like this unless you really, really, really want a lot of surveil. So it's a pass for me.
Okay, well, I mean, here's a card that's been played in Vintage, I believe. What do you think about the Narco-Amoeba?
No. It's put me to sleep already. No, thank you. Pass.
Alrighty. Drowned Secrets.
I've never played with this. It can, mill is very strong in draft, and if you've got one or two, if you see two of them, this card will win you the game every time. So take it if you see a second one, but don't grab it. Don't grab it late in a draft over something you might actually use.
Okay. What about the Omnispell Adept?
Just a pass for me. Format's too quick for something cute like this.
Alrighty. Chemister's Insight.
Definite pick. Control is very strong in guilds, and being able to draw two cards twice off of the same card is just something I always want.
Alrighty. Enhanced Surveillance.
Enhanced Surveillance is generally a pass. There are some situations where you want it. If you're in a grindy Dimir deck and you don't want to deck yourself, you can take it.
All right. Selective Snare.
Nope. Hard pass. Not enough creature type synergy in this set for this to do anything good.
Alrighty. The City Watch Sphinx.
City Watch Sphinx is generally a pick, but it's a lower pick than you might think for a flyer with this much power. 4, unfortunately, is just a bad number of toughness to have in this set, just because of Hypothesizel and Artful Takedown at common and how popular those are to be played. I'm generally going to play 1, so I'm going to pick it usually, but I'm going to cut it for things like Watcher of the Mist if I end up with more of those.
Okay. Guild Summit.
Guild Summit is generally a pass for me, and if you want to be a responsible adult, it will be a pass for you too. But if you are drafting the 5-color good stuff deck, which you can do with all the guild gates in this set, this is a big part of that strategy, and you've got to have at least 1 or 2.
Alrighty. Tell me about the Thoughtbound Phantasm.
Oh, this guy. This guy's one of my favorites. I will pick him every time, and this is the sort of thing that gets me into the Dimir guild.
Nice. A Night Vale Sprite.
Same as above. It's a pick every time, and it's a thing that puts me into Dimir.
Welcome to Night Vale. Murmuring Mystic.
Murmuring Mystic is probably the best uncommon in the set. If you find one early or even late, you're probably going to want to pivot and try to find a way to include blue in your color pie if you haven't already. So 100% a pick.
Nice. Sinister Sabotage.
Counterspell's not great in draft. Generally going to be a pass for me unless I'm already deep in a control deck that's Izzet or Dimir.
Okay, and here's a radical idea.
This is a bad card in draft, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it along.
Okay. Maximize Altitude.
Maximize Altitude is generally a pass. I want my combat tricks to be at instant speed, and I generally want them to be red or white.
Okay, what about Unexplained Disappearance?
I like this one a lot, actually. I like bouncing. It's great for tempo, and it's going to go great in Izzet and in Dimir, so definitely a pick.
Awesome. Now here's one you mentioned earlier, the Watcher in the Mist.
Ah, yes, Watcher in the Mist. In my opinion, the upgraded version of City Watch Sphinx. I'm going to pick this every time. Has fantastic stats for its cost and helps me to draw to more gas.
Okay. Can this combat trick tempt you? The Dazzling Lights.
This combat trick has tempted me, and it does pay me off sometimes if I have a Spy Bug or a Thoughtbound Phantasm, so I can turn it into even more value at instant speed. But I will not pick this card unless I have one of those cards, so generally a pass.
Okie doke. Dimir Informant.
A boring pick, but a perfectly fine pick. She can go in my deck whenever she needs to. She's got great stats, and she helps me dig through my deck to either bombs or lands or really whatever I'm missing.
Alrighty. Devious Cover-Up.
So this one might surprise a lot of people, but this is a very, very high pick. There are a lot of decks that this is actually the win con. You just have 2 Devious Cover-Ups in your deck, and whenever you counter with the second Devious Cover-Up, you just shuffle the first Devious Cover-Up back into your deck because there are so many good control cards in this set. You can just win by decking your opponent and you never decking because you're cycling your Devious Cover-Up. So this is a card that I'm going to take highly, and I'm really ecstatic when I get to see the second copy of it. Definitely a pick for me.
Wow. Capture Sphere.
Probably one of the best blue commons. Definitely a pick, always a great rate. We've seen this card before in other sets and it's always been good. This time it has flash, even better.
Nice. What about the Disdainful Stroke?
Normally I'd say pass this card, but in this format specifically with all the control out there, it's been pretty useful to me. So I'm going to pick it, but I'm going to pick it a little bit later.
Alrighty. Pass Wall Adept.
Most of the time it's a pass unless you're going Sultai and you need a way to force through your big, stupid green-black creatures, in which case you're definitely going to want to include 1 to 2 of this creature in your deck.
Alrighty. What about a Leapfrog?
Definitely a pick if you're in Izzet aggro. A pass anywhere else.
Okay. The Muse Drake.
Not amused to me, Kevin, I'm afraid. Not amused at all. Definitely passing this card.
Alrighty. Vidalcan Mesmerist.
Again, it's a keep or a pick in an Izzet aggro deck. A pass everywhere else.
Okay. The Wall of Mist.
Again, fairly vanilla. I'm going to keep it in any hard control deck that I'm in. 1 or 2 copies is going to be good. I'm going to pass it anywhere else.
Alrighty. And finally, what would you do for a Wishcoin Crab?
For a Wishcoin Crab, I'd say that I'd probably pick it around 5th or 7th pick in packs 1 or 2. This card matches up with the format a lot better than I thought it would, and I've been very surprised at how well it's performed. The 2 power is very important, and specifically the 5 toughness, evading a lot of the 4 damage removal in the format, is very important too. I've been surprised at how many times a Wish Coin grab has landed on the battlefield and I've been unable to push through it, and that's given my control opponent the ability to just turn the corner. At first, if you'd asked me about this card at the beginning of the format, I would have told you to pass it. Now, I think it's definitely a pick if you're in any of the control strategies, which most of the blue strategies are.
Nice. That brings us to the end of the Dimir and the Blue cards. Thanks again to Pat's Games here in Austin, Texas, and thank you, Morgan, for your expertise on draft this week.
Thanks for inviting me.
If you'd like to see more content like this, then feel free to like our page on Facebook or subscribe down there if you're watching on YouTube. You can also catch us in our Facebook chat group, Game Talk for Gamers, where you can chat with me and the rest of the team. Thank you very much, and we will catch you next time on Knights of the Game Table.